Yes, there are two.
Okay, we'll call this to order. We have done the pledge in our previous meeting, so we'll skip right down to roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer. Here. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Here.
Commissioner Restro.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Here. Commissioner Elguyer. Here. Commissioner Lemon. Present.
We now have public comment. If there's anybody that would like to make public comment.
We have no public.
Any commissioner comment? Okay, the purpose of the meeting, discussion of potential action on the equalization hearing, approval of the 2023 L4024 report, and welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying, I know you've been sitting all morning, so I will try not to.
We've kept you waiting since we told you you'd be on at 11:30.
Oh, wow. I was waiting with bated breath. So the last time I was before you, we discussed the studies that the Equalization Department conducts annually to support county equalization. The purpose of those studies is to determine the level of assessment in each class of property in each township. Property in Michigan, as you know, is required to be assessed at 50% of its true cash value. And ultimately, the purpose of equalization at the county level is to ensure that the level of assessment between property classes in each jurisdiction is uniform. The equalization process sets the property tax base for the county and helps to ensure that property taxes are levied in a fair and equitable manner. The Board of Commissioners delegates responsibility of the equalization process to the Equalization Department, but ultimately it's the responsibility of the board itself to equalize. And so that's why we're meeting today in this special session. This is the Tuesday following the second Monday in April. The State Tax Commission likes to have sort of papal style meeting dates like that. So the report that you have in front of you provides a summary and analysis of the county's 2023 county equalized value and the 2023 taxable value. I'm not gonna, you have this report, you should have a hard copy in front of you and also a PDF. So I'm not gonna go through every single page of this report, but I just wanted to kind of hit sort of the most significant portions of it. But were there any sort of upfront questions?
I have one, it's not in any kind of order. Okay, I was on tab 11, I was looking at veterans that are exempt from taxes. I know this is both a good thing and a concerning thing for some townships. But what if there's a trust? Is that person is still alive and they have a trust in their name? Is that how that works?
So the property has to be in the veteran's name, because anyone can be in a trust.
But the veteran must still be alive, right? I mean, this isn't a veteran that's passed away and had a trust.
So I mean, there's sort of two things going on. Like the veteran doesn't have to be, if you're the spouse of the veteran, you can maintain that exemption, even if your spouse has
Oh,
passed.
that's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so the spouse can maintain.
Correct.
Is that the end of that transmitting children? No.
It's just the spouse. Yep. And I believe that it's been controversial because there was a recent ruling in 2021 or 2022 saying that the previous guidelines were such that if the spouse and the veteran owned a home and then the veteran dies, the spouse moves, they would lose that exemption. And I believe the legislature is going to address that so that the surviving spouse can carry that exemption wherever they go. It's not tied to the property, but currently, as far as I know, it's still tied to the property.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Andrew before he?
Okay, so I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of go just sort of briefly through some of these major portions of the report, and I'll just refer to the tabs on your physical copy. But tab 2 is just a letter to the board which states that all county equalized values are subject to review and change by the Michigan State Tax Commission until the fourth Monday in May, when the final order of state equalization is issued. So the official report that gets submitted, the L 4024, it's filed with the STC by May 1st. And then state equalization will take place on May 22nd. So that's kind of the order of operations after county equalization occurs. And then I just wanted to thank, reiterate my thanks to my staff, as well as the assessing officers in the county, because it's the assessment equalization process. It's a team effort, and we all work together to make it happen. And we wouldn't be able to do it if people weren't, working it as a team. So if you turn to tab 4, this is the certification of recommended county equalized valuations by the equalization director. So on the certification, it just states that Leelanau County is a level 4 county, and that I as director am certified at level 4, and indicates my recommendation for county equalized values for the various classes. And this is the report that gets submitted to the state tax commission. And it just identifies the assessed value of each real class of property, the total assessed of personal property, and then the overall assessed value of both the real and the personal. So this is like your quick sort of summary of the equalization report.
Residential is almost $5 billion.
Correct.
Holy cow.
So then if you turn to tab 6. So this is just sort of the broad summary that shows the percent change in both the county equalized value and the taxable value from 22 to 23 by local unit. And just sort of if we working our way through it, the parcel count has really increased only about 0.5%. So there was a net gain of 143 parcels. But county equalized value has increased 19.74% from 22 to 23. And that's in contrast to last year, where we had an increase of from 2021 to 2022, an increase of 8.1%. So those big numbers had me looking back through my previous equalization reports, and the average increase per year up to 2021 was 3.53% each year. So obviously 8.1% in 21 to 22 and 19.74% 22 to 23, is a significant deviation from the norm. And it's just clear that we're in an assessment environment that's being driven by a property market that's unlike what we've seen in the past. And I spoke with equalization directors in Grand Traverse, Charlevoix, and Emmett counties, because that's, kind of similar Cherry Coast. And Grand Traverse had a 14.51% increase. Charlevoix was about 18%, and Emmett was 15.82. So Leelanau is not alone in experiencing that increase in assessed values across the board.
It was 19%.
Ours was 19.74%.
Highest of the 5.
Correct. And I've only spoken with those 3 counties. So, and the state does take in all this data. They'll take in all the L4024s, and they usually have a report showing, across the state, what kind of increases each county has. In terms of taxable value, Leelanau County increased 8.79% from 22 to 23. And that number, as you're aware, that's held down by those statutory limitations set up by Proposal A.
That being said, I wish I brought the numbers exactly, guys. We're doing some calculation on some taxables from really good farmland downstate, and it's half. Their values and their taxes are half what we pay up here. And, when it comes to general crop, they can raise twice as much easily. So it just goes to show we're being taxed on highest and best use, which is houses.
So then if we turn to tab 7, this Commissioner Algar, this kind of goes to your what you spotted. This shows the county equalized value of each class of real property in 22 and 23. And it's it's an important graph to look closely at because it highlights the significance of that residential property, as you pointed out. The residential class makes up 91.25% of the total assessed of the county. So we tend to think of Leelanau County as, bucolic, agrarian, rolling hills, vineyards, orchards, but from a value perspective, residential property dominates. So as a result, the real estate market surrounding that residential property drives those increases that we see every year in assessments. So then, anyway, bottom line of this graph is just to emphasize how much of the county's value is in that residential class. I mean, the vast majority of it.
I'm just curious, what is the comparison to zoning? Do you know off the top of your head? Like what percentage is zone residential, zone agricultural?
No, we deal with property classes, and zoning is just a separate, and zoning is also done. Assessing is done at the township level and so is zoning, so,
So,
but they're two separate things.
Yeah.
If you flip to tab 8. So this shows the county equalized values since 2003. And so you can see that values climbed until 2008, which was the high point at the beginning of the Great Recession. Then it took about until 2020 to surpass that 2008 value. And then since that time, Leelanau has continued to increase each year. And so as I previously mentioned, the jump from 22 to 23 was an increase of 19.74%. And that represents an increase in value of over 900 million. And that's just an unprecedented increase in value, just looking back historically.
Up almost 40% in 2020 in that short time, 37%.
Correct. And then if you flip not to the next tab, but just the next page, it should be page 19 in your book. That's the increase in taxable values at the across the same time frame. So this is just a much more steady year-to-year increase because increases in taxable are tied to the rate of inflation. And inflation has historically, or at least until quite recently, been quite low. So from 2003 to 2020, we didn't have the kind of high inflation that we have now. And so I've probably received more emails and in-person visits about inflation this year than ever before. And the driver behind that is the state of Michigan setting the inflation rate multiplier at 1.05 or 5%, which per proposal A, that 5% is the maximum. That's the cap. So we've hit that cap. So your taxable, an individual's taxable value, if they do nothing, is going up 5%, and that's the max. And we've never hit that cap since proposal A was passed in '94. So that's driven a lot of interest.
That's a lot, doesn't it?
So, and the state tax commission publishes they publish a bulletin that has all of the historic inflation rate multipliers that they use going back all the way to 94, well, starting in 95. So if there's any interest in seeing like how those have changed over time, there's that bulletin available, but 1.05 is the highest, and it's that cap set by proposal A.
And without proposal A, it would have been 7?
It would have been it would have been 1.079%. Correct.
So almost 8.
Yep. So if you turn now to tab 13, what's under tab 13? These are the L4037s for the various units in Leelanau County. The 37 is the form that identifies the assessed value as equalized for each class of real property, as well as the value of all the personal property within that township. So these need each of these forms. So there's a form for each jurisdiction. Needs to be signed by the chairperson of the board as well as the clerk. And Michelle's office has a copy of this report with all the forms on it. And then lastly, if you turn to tab 14, this is the L4024. This is the official equalization report that's submitted to the State Tax Commission, signed by the equalization director, the clerk, and the chairperson person of the Board of Commissioners. And Michelle's office should also have a copy of this to sign, but this is basically what the board is signing off on the L4024 in this session. So just to sort of finish up, March Board Review followed by County Equalization in April, and then State Equalization in May represents the conclusion of the year's assessment cycle. And in the Equalization Department, we pretty much greet this moment with a sense of accomplishment for having, finished the cycle for the year. But also we start to look forward to the start of the new assessment cycle where we're getting out in the field and doing the fun work of actually getting out of the office a little bit and enjoying the springtime. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, that's it for me.
Andrew, thank you. I have a question for you. In the village of Norfolk, the CEV went up 22%. That seems like a lot because we haven't had much construction. So how do you account for a 22% CEV increase?
Right, so your assessed values are driven by the market. So if the assessor is looking at to determine their values, their assessments, they're looking at sales. And so it's really all of those sales, the increases in sale prices and things like that that are driving those assessments.
You consider all the sales in that township then?
We
Or
consider,
just 10 or 12?
no, well, so when for equalization purposes, when we study property, we are looking at, when we go out and look at property, we look at a subset, but when we do our sales study, for residential, just like with the assessor, we look at every arm's length transaction.
Okay.
So not, if it's a, transfer between people who are related, we toss that out because those are, appropriate sales to use in our analysis.
And that's where the factor comes up.
So the factor comes up when so we study each individual jurisdiction to determine what their assessment ratio is. And then the assessors, if we say, okay, your assessment ratio is say 45%, and they need to be between 49 and 50, the assessors have to respond to that because we're saying, hey, you're not between that 49 and 50. They have to increase their assessed values. And if they don't do that, for example, if they come in,
Clean up your assessment factor.
correct, yeah, we apply a factor. And we did not have to apply a factor to anyone this year, so that's good.
Any other questions for Andrew?
Just thank you for all this one. Exceptional.
We need a motion, I think, to approve the 4024.
It's a resolution. Support.
So you have that, Jen?
Yep, so
Okay,
it's
so you
gonna be a
wanna call the
motion that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve Leelanau County Resolution number ... a resolution approving the 2023 Leelanau County Equalization Report. Is that correct?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Almost word for word.
Exactly the way I remember it anyway.
Commissioner Rexroth. Commissioner Rexroth?
You said
Yes. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. Commissioner Ross? Yes. Chairman Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Why was I laughing?
This time we have public comments. Anybody?
Roll call, since he makes it, you'll be last.
Any commissioner
You
comments?
make it, I'll be
None.
last.
No.
Motion to